Okay, so here we are back with our Hangman game. Just remind ourselves where we are. We've got our find letter function down here, find letter in function, which given a particular word in a letter returns us a, plus there for some reason, returns us a list of locations where that letter is found. So that's a list containing numbers. And we've also got our add found to guess function, where we pass our current guess, the list that we've just created in the letter, and that goes and puts that particular letter at those locations in our current guess and returns it. We've got a function formatted guess, which just puts some spaces in our formatted output. So rather than it appearing like a continual line like this, it's actually broken up so we can see how many letters are in there. And this function doesn't actually print that formatted guess, but it returns a string as some formatted output, and then I can use the return value of the function formatted guess within the print statement here. So let's just remind ourselves where we're at. We've got televisions. We'll just search for an E in televisions, run that bit of code, and there you go. It said word televisions, letter E was found at locations 1 and 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's put them in at locations 1, 2, 3 within our current guess. So that appears to be working. Right, obviously the next thing really is to build this up into a loop. At the moment we've specified the letter that we want to search for. Clearly this is going to be a letter that the user puts in, and we want to be able to go around a loop. So looking back at our code design, what's the loop that's controlling all this? Well, obviously we keep repeating the loop while the current guess is not the same as the actual word, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to a point where this variable here, the current guess, is the same as the actual word. So if they are different, we keep continuing around the loop. And obviously we need to build lives into that as well. We'll worry about lives in a moment. So let's start with our while loop up here. So while our current guess does not equal our actual guess. Okay, so that's our kind of our first iteration loop. I know we haven't got any lives in here yet, so this program will actually just continue until we finally get the word right. So what do we want to do within this loop? So bearing in mind that we're going around and again looking at our code design, what we need to do is we need to let the user know first of all what the current guess is. So I'm going to take this line here, I'm going to put that within my while loop. So just make sure I've got my 4 indentations. So we're going to start by printing what the current guess is, so they can see that. We then need to, at the moment we're specifying the letter that we want to search for. We need really now to get the user to type this in. So we'll now say letter is assigned input, and we'll get the user, give them a prompt. Okay, so now letter will vary each time we go around this loop. Okay, having done that, what's the next thing we want to do? Well, we want to go and have a look to see if we can find this letter that the user has chosen in our actual word. So that's going to be part of our loop. Okay, we'll still leave in this print statement for the moment, because that's going to help us with debugging if things go wrong. So this doesn't change anything, it just prints us some information out. And when we think about what goes on in our locations now, if we come back from locations and it's an empty string, it means it hasn't found anything in there. So we can say if locations is an empty string, we can just print the text not found. If it comes back and it's got something in it, then it will hit the else statement here. So that means we've obviously found it, and we can say print found. And what we want to do now is add found letter to our current guess. Okay, so that all seems to be pretty straightforward. So obviously I don't want to assign the letter up here to E because I'm now doing that within my loop. Logic seems okay, so let's run that. We've got the word televisions. I'm just going to save it with a different name. And that. Okay, actual guess is not defined. Oh, it's not actual guess, of course, it's actual word, isn't it? Okay, so our current guess is blank. Please enter a letter, or should I put a space in there? So I'll go for a W. Not found. So it says here this is our debugging that we've left in. It's telling me it wasn't found. It now prints not found. It's not put anything in. It's asking me for another letter again. So I'll go for T, which I know is at the start now. And yes, it's told me that T was found at location 0. It's now printed found it, and the current guess is T because it's put that in there. So let's put the S in because I know it's televisions. Yeah, it tells me it found it and it's put the S in there. So let's just get the whole thing in. Just going to try another wrong one, so I'll put a C in, so it doesn't work. Television, so it's an N. And our program ends because obviously it falls out of the while loop. So that's our basic code. What do we need to improve? We now need to put a space in there. And I think after not found or found, before I go back around the loop here, really it just needs another kind of print statement in there, which will give me a space, which will space things out a little bit. So let's just run that code. So that's better. Current guess, enter a letter 4. 4 wasn't found. You can see it's now put my space in, and that's a lot better. Okay, so that's kind of working. What else can we improve on this? Well, you can see at the moment, obviously, this will keep going around this loop until we get the actual word. Well, that's not how Hangman works. Hangman works where it's got a certain number of lives associated with each go. So again, looking back at our design, what we've got to do? Well, we know we've got to set lives to our initial value, whatever we choose that to be. We can see that we need to reduce the lives every time you guess a letter that's wrong, and you can see that we need to repeat the loop until the lives are 0, or while the lives are not 0. So we just need to put that bit of extra code in. So up at the top here, I'm going to set lives to start with a value of 8. And I think about my while loop here, so it's while the current guess is not the actual word, I want to repeat the loop, and while lives does not equal 0. So again, remember the AND condition here, we repeat the loop while the current guess is not the actual word and lives is not 0. Both of these must be true for us to repeat the loop. If lives reduces to 0, this will become false. Or if we actually get the word, this will become false. Either of those conditions, because we've got this AND in here, will stop the loop working, which is what we want. And obviously all we need to do now is here, where we didn't find an answer, is just reduce lives by 1. So lives equals, is assigned lives by 1. I suppose the only other thing we ought to do is here just tell people how many lives they've got as we go around the loop. So we should print you have lives Yeah, let's just run that, see where we get to. So yes, you have 8 lives, please enter a letter A. I've now got 7 lives because it wasn't found. T. Yeah, just put T in, I've still got 7 lives. E, L, E, V, I, O. I'm just waiting for my N now. I've still got 7 lives. If we just put in some of the letters that are not in there. D's not in there. Yeah, so it seems to be working, and obviously it'll get to the end. So I'll put in N. Obviously it just says found and it doesn't end particularly spectacularly, and if it had failed it would have said not found and it wouldn't have ended either. So our last bit really is when we exit out of the loop here. What we really need to do is kind of give you some kind of report. So when we get down here to the end, we've broken out of the loop. We don't know immediately why we've broken out. It could be because the lives are 0, or it could be because they've guessed the word. So what we could do is say if lives is 0, we can print you failed to guess the word. It was, and I suppose it's always courteous to at least tell them what the actual word was. So if the live is 0, we've come out of the loop and it's 0, therefore they did fail as they run out of lives. If they didn't have 0 lives, the only other way they could have got out is if they were successful. Print well done. You guessed it. And just in case they missed it, it was. Actual word. And then our program ends. So again, let's just check that that works. Okay, current guess, you have 8 lives, please enter a letter, so I'm just going to keep hitting A. Right, you failed to guess the word, it was televisions. Let's just run the program again. Do get the words in this time. So it's just waiting for my N. Well done, you guessed it, it was televisions. Brilliant, so there's our code. We've written our Hangman game. Now, it's obviously not complete yet, there's a few more improvements we can do, but we've got the essence of the game there. We've got it written very well structured. We've got quite a clear main routine, which is getting a bit big. We're going to have to slim that down a bit and ship some of that code off into functions. And again, looking back to our code design, that should tell me what I can pull out of there as a function. But we've got 3 pretty clear functions down the bottom that are doing most of the work. Certainly the find letter in function is finding all our data, and the add found to guess function is actually building the guessed word as we go through. So I'm not going to talk through any more of the design of this, but there is a final solution which does a little bit more, and if you look in the coding, there's some suggestions about what you should do to do that for you to try before you look at the final code. Okay, thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed that one. Bye.